the main reason why we are here, to recognize ourselves. Forget about all the big spiritual concepts which one day we will have to face and be in. At the moment we are here. And at the moment we are surrounded by ourselves, by the mirror of ourselves, and everything what we see and everything what disturbs us is something that we have to clear up in us right now. That's enough to do from day to day to day.
Do you believe that this is your last incarnation on Earth? Hans Wilhelm, welcome on the show. What are you most excited about right now in your life?
Right now, to be on your show and meeting you and your audience, and that is an absolute delight and honor, and I'm happy to be here. That is definitely my present focus. But of course, on a larger scale, I'm happy to be alive here at the moment at this very interesting time in the world where we're going through major changes, which may not all be very funny and very easy. But we all have chosen to be here, and it's a sign that we are strong enough to handle it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here.
I've heard you mention that in the Earth School, we're raising our vibration. The planet itself is shifting its vibration. And that is another reason why so many souls from the higher sort of spheres are being able to populate the planet right now, because it's a different frequency happening on the planet. And you've mentioned that there's a Kali Yuga going on into a golden age. I'd love for you to sort of quickly run down exactly what is going on a macro scale on the Earth School right now.
Well, Earth is a school. It's not our permanent home. So we shouldn't really live the way as if this would be our permanent home. It is really our school where we are just a very short time, but it's 30,000 days or whatever. It's very, very short. So we are here to grow, mature, to undo our karma and learn to love, so that we can eventually return back to the absolute reality where all of us came. So at the moment, the planet Earth is going to a phase where it is raising its frequency, because we are only talking about vibration and frequency. Everything is nothing else than frequency. So the Earth is changing into a higher vibration, which means it will also only then attract the souls of higher vibration to come to this Earth planet. But prior this time, we will be going, or we are already going through a very difficult time. It's the cleansing, the purification of the planet Earth, where it is basically shaking off all the horrific things which we have done to ourselves and to planet Earth. It's a time of turmoil, a time of strife, and really much of suffering as well. That is an incredible opportunity for souls in the purification spheres to undo their karma. So they are trying hard to incarnate at this time, to be here, to undo their karma, because the karma is our soul burden. So the main purpose why we suddenly, from 1.5 billion people in the year 1500, we are now to 8 billion, which is a juke like this, is because billions of souls have tried to incarnate at this amazing time to undo their karma so fast. Because here on planet Earth, to undo our karma is much easier, because we have a physical body and we can do painkillers, and it's like a buffer. In the purification sphere, we also have to undo our karma, but it's far more painful. And we can also do it much faster here. So therefore, these souls are totally aware of it and are coming here. And many, many more souls want to incarnate at this time, but can't, because there are not enough physical bodies available. So it is a very, very special time. It is hard, it is difficult, but we have chosen this because it is the fastest way to purify our souls.
And when I tune into your work, it's coming from that source of absolute reality. And you mentioned this German woman, Gabrielle, where those teachings that you come across around 30 years ago really struck a chord in your system. What was it about that work and the work that you're teaching now that resonated with your whole being? What about exactly that work resonated?
Well, like yourself, when I started to do on the spiritual path in my early teens already, and went through all known and unknown paths, popular ones, etc., with Edgar Cayce and Steiner, and you name them, I studied them all until then one day, sort of like 30 years ago, or 40 years ago by now, I came across this path given by Gabriele, the emissary of light, we call her. She is basically a channel from the divine world and gives us the latest, or not the clearest and the most purest and the deepest teaching the world has ever received. And it can, in countless books, hundreds of books, they're all in the Sophia Library in Germany, and they're also available at Gabriele Publishing House. Why I'm so attracted to is because, A, it's very easy to understand. In today's language, you mentioned earlier Rudolf Steiner, and one tried to read Rudolf Steiner, Edgar Cayce. It's very difficult stuff.
Yeah.
That's one reason. The other reason is there is no organization. There is nothing to join. You don't have to become a member. This is a path between you and God within. So it's a very personal path. We don't have teachers. I am not a teacher. I'm merely showing what I understand in my videos. Because I make the videos largely for myself. I have to see how these laws work, so I draw it out. I'm by occupation an author and illustrator, and I've been illustrating many, many books. And when I see the text now, as I was given now from the divine absolute reality, I look at it and I see how does it work? How does point A fit to point B, and how it connects? And that's all my videos are about. Visually showing how the spiritual laws are affecting us, how the law of karma works, how the law of reincarnation works, etc., etc. And when we see that visually, like for instance, here I show how karma works when somebody does something bad to someone else, and then this is stored in their soul, in the Akashic records, in the repository planets, and then comes back, etc. When we see that visually, it makes total sense. Yeah. I can explain it in words, and it comes across maybe or maybe not, but visually, it's wonderful. And I think that's where the appeal is from my video series, because it has grown so tremendously over the last few years by just showing these laws. They are not coming from me. Nothing comes from me. I have no other talent than basically interpreting this visually, the material which we receive via Gabi at this present time. And she has been giving this material for nearly 50 years. And you won't find her on the internet because she doesn't work, like no personality.
Yeah, I tried. I'm like, who is this woman?
No, she doesn't want it. There's even a big television station which have continuously programs about these teachings. She never appears on that one. She knows very well that is something for the world, and she feels she is not important. She's merely a vehicle, something very amazing. You don't find it anywhere else with any of the spiritual teachers.
Now, have you met her? Have you met Gabrielle?
Oh, yeah. Met her a few times. Yeah, actually traveled with her here through America. We had some sessions here. But that was, because I have this connection. And I also, the other thing, Emilio, is for the last 30 or 40 years, I try to apply these laws. Just knowing doesn't do any good. I mean, wisdom or too much knowledge can be harmful. If we know too much and don't live it up, it is just a burden to our soul. So I've tried to live these laws as they're given, live these instruction and these advice and hints and ideas and suggestions given by the spiritual world. And I found they work. They have calmed me down. They have given me confidence. They have given me a different view of the world, which helps me in my day-to-day life to know why I'm here, where do I come from, and where I'm going. These important questions have been answered very clearly in these teachings, and they have given me the confidence. And maybe other people also who found this material feel very similar.
So let's start with the first one. Where do we come from? And you've given this beautiful analogy of the sun, the central sun, the father, the mother, the all of consciousness, and it separates itself into Googles of entities to be able to, as you said, live that soul evolution and grow and evolve. And then we have many lifetimes. So if you want to just unpack exactly what are these teachings of where do we come from? I know it's an easy question to start, but where do we come from?
It's easier if I can draw. Now I have to use my words, which is a little bit clumsy since I'm also speaking in a different language. But very shortly is because we are all created as children of God, divine being, spirit being, perfect being, and we're in the absolute reality, which is all God in a way, where we are basically one with everything and everyone, the total oneness. There is no time, there is no cause and effect, there is no karma. This is the absolute reality. Some of these souls for various reasons, have revolted and left that absolute reality. We call it Lucifer's rebellion. Is one of the videos which I make. In the Bible, it's called the fall. These are the angels, fall of angels, which have separated themselves from the absolute reality. And chances are that you and I, most other watchers at the moment of this video and listeners, are part of these angels who have left the absolute reality. The moment we left the absolute reality, we created time, space, a contrast, good and evil, and the law of sowing and reaping, the law of karma, which does not exist in the absolute reality.
We created all of those.
Huh?
You said that we created everything, all of those.
We created it, basically. We abused the divine laws and turned it around and created our own karmic laws out of it and fell further away from the pure heavens until we basically came to the crystallized form, which is a material matter, which is nothing as an energy, crystallized light ether. So we are now in a physical world, which does not exist, of course, in the absolute reality. So we have fallen so much down. And to come back, so basically the first question is, where we come from? We all come from the absolute reality. In other words, nobody has to learn how to love and to be good and to be kind. That is our true essence. We just have to relearn it, remember it. That's all. Nobody has to learn anything new. We just have to become what we are at essence. So that's why, and we are here at the moment on planet Earth, as we've mentioned earlier, as an Earth school for the very short time, 800,000 hours or whatever. It's very short because it gives us an opportunity to, in very short time, to clear up the karma. Karma is basically everything what was unloving in our thoughts, action, feeling, sensing, speaking over the past, over a million years, a long, long time. They all have become shadows, soul shadows, and they are stored in the planets. And the repository planets. And when these planets turn away and move and become full, they download that karma back to us. These are the blows of fate we sometimes have, but also small things like my neighbor is suddenly cross with me, etc. Where I fight, I fall down. These are all little karmic energies, which is nothing but vibrations, coming back to us so that we undo, we learn from it. Etc. And the most important task, of course, for us is to forgive and learn to forgive and forgive others, as well as ask for forgiveness, make amends, and basically love again what we are in nature, to learn that in a nutshell. And then eventually, slowly, as we undo our karma, our vibration increases, and we come back to the highest vibration, which is love, which is a pure absolute reality. That is in a nutshell. If you watch my videos, which you have done, it's much clearer because I show it there how it works.
Yes, and staying on the karma topic, you've also said they not only get stored in these depository actual planets, but also in the Akashic records.
Yeah.
Right.
And on our body as well, in our cells, in the person whom we harm. So in many, many ways, the karma is stored. It's a vibration. If I hurt you, that vibration is stored in you, in your cell, in our cells. As you know, you had experts on that one as well. We can sort of undo to tapping. We can undo that, but mostly through forgiveness. And the way is also to go here, the path of Christ, to ask Christ, if you believe in Christ, to help you to undo that karma, to guide you through that period, because it can stimulate the vibrations and help us to undo this whole thing. So the whole thing, the path, we are here for self-recognition and freedom. These are the two main things. We are not here to have necessarily a great lifetime and have, manifest everything we want, the sports car, the luxury villa, and this white life. No, this is a school. Since when do we in school want to have houses and properties, etc., etc.? No, we are here to become, not to get. And that's what a lot of New Age teachings sort of, I think, got a little bit distorted. They give us a lot of emphasis of how, with the law of attraction, how to get. That holds us only back. Many our desires, our wishes are boomerangs that we throw in the future and that pull us back to another reincarnation. So we have to be careful what we wish. Is that really what we wish divine? Is this really helpful for everyone? Is it really helping my soul versus my body or my comfort? So that's in a nutshell.
Yeah. And you said that staying on the topic of karma, there is this law of grace, law of forgiveness that goes in order for the cycle to be played out. And we've heard so much about forgiveness. And one thing that really stood out when I was watching your content is you said that only when the other person has truly and fully forgiven us and accepted our offer of amends will it be possible that that karma is dissolved. And we've also heard that sometimes forgiveness is on one side of the coin, that I can forgive that other person, I can forgive myself, but does it need to be a mutual exchange for that cycle and karma to be fulfilled? Does the other person necessarily have to forgive in their core? Because that's something that we cannot control.
In a way, we can control it. In my understanding, yes, the other person, it's the energy, it's vibration. And if I close it and the other one still is angry with me, there is still something which doesn't help us to come to the highest vibration. We have to clear the other person's energy as well. And we can't force somebody to forgive me. That is absolutely right. If somebody doesn't want to forgive us, it looks like there is no chance. And that's why Christ comes and give it to me. I make sure that the soul will learn in a very fast time to learn to forgive and see things different. He has the power, because he is omnipresent, to really influence the soul of the other person in a way that they are opening up, they're softening, they understand it. Now, it may not be in this lifetime, but it may be in another lifetime. But it is my clear understanding that they both have to really forgive each other. And very often this takes place also when we die on the other side, and suddenly we meet the other person and says, oh my God, what have I done, etc. How silly, and so on. Sometimes the forgiveness comes there too, if we are on the same level. But if the other person incarnates or goes into the purification in another level and we don't meet each other, then it's not possible. Yeah. So here on Earth, we are coming together from various different levels of purification. And that's a unique part of planet Earth, that we can meet souls from very different backgrounds, from different vibration, from different evolution, from different evolved states of consciousness. And we do not have that in the purification spheres, because that only works by the law of like attracts like, which means we are also surrounded by like-minded souls. So if we are a robber, we are surrounded by other robbers. If we believe in any kind of religion, we are very strongly, then that is also the attraction we have with other people. So the growth in such an environment where everybody is similar like ourselves is very difficult. You come to Earth where everybody around in your neighborhood is different. Wow, suddenly so many opportunities, so many changes, but also so many temptations. There's both ways. So we do have this positive thing. Of course, we can really grow, but we can also get tempted and fall back into more humanness.
And on that topic of the law of vibration, before we incarnate, we decide with other souls to come down and work out whatever curriculum we've chosen. And it almost seems like when you say that we are moving and shifting in vibration, even in these physical bodies, what happens if sort of a lot of people are going through spiritual awakenings now, right? So if someone is going through a spiritual awakening, they are shifting their vibration so much that that soul group that they came initially with no longer is aligned. Can that happen here in the physical, or is that something that happens before we decide to incarnate?
We have always the free will. We can both ways. We can also go downwards. I mean, there's a certain level of consciousness, and we can say, I rather go down a lot. I take drugs or whatever it is, I remove myself. We can also remove ourselves spiritually. But I personally believe that the main reason why certain souls are coming together, because they need something to be cleared up, that will take place, irrespective of whether one is more evolved than the other. I think the main reason for us to meet another person and for why we make these soul contracts is to clear something up. And I think that will be respected by life.
And you've made that differentiation between the soulmate and the soul partner. What is going on there with those two?
Well, soulmate is such a great new age kind of word. Everybody wants to find their soulmate and live with their soulmate. In my video, I clarify, if we all have our soulmate and have really a person who is totally understanding us, loving us constantly and forgiving us, etc., where will be the growth will be? There wouldn't be much growth. If we go to college alone, we don't have our support group like our family, our dog, or what, a pet with us. We are there and suddenly involved with many different people we have never met before. But that's where the soul growth takes place. Comfort and growth never goes together. So we come here to Earth to learn something. And sometimes we have to be in an environment where we are totally on our own to become, because the key is to rely on the path within, on the source within. Not on our soul partner, not on our life partner. We have to learn to rely totally on the Christ or God within. That is our only source. So when we have a convenient partner with us who protects us, is always there, we may not even find the source. And therefore, the soulmate, according to my understanding, rarely incarnates at the same time as we do. There is an exception when we come here for a purpose of, let's say we want to do some missionary work or some helping the planet, then our purpose is not for growth, our purpose is to serve. And there's sometimes a helping mate next to us is very helpful. But we can have a wonderful relationship with our life partner, which is as intimate and as wonderful and as powerful as a soulmate. And our soulmate is not envious. Believe me, they live on a much higher vibration. And if we have got intimacy with our life partners, that is absolutely okay with them. So our life partner is here, and the life partner may change in a lifetime from lifetime. They may not be the same. There can be next time our father, our mother, our kids, or whatever. It changes all the time. But there is a difference between that. That's why when people so desperately look for their soulmate, it says your soulmate at the moment in this lifetime is in you. Your soulmate is Christ. Your soulmate is God. And then later on, when you go higher, etc., you definitely, because we all have a mate in the absolute reality. Nobody is alone there. We all have, there are always male, female partners forever, which makes this whole thing also more fun. But as long as we are here in the planet Earth, like in college, there we go alone.
I wanted to tread some dangerous territory because, as mentioning the new age, there's many new concepts coming up. And there is this concept coming up, and my belief is that if you have a body, you are a soul. And there's this belief now in the spiritual community of NPCs. I don't know if you've heard of this concept before.
What does NPC stand for?
I'll give you a little bit of context. It's the belief that a lot of people are not actually people, but they're rather non-playable characters. Like as in the Matrix, they're NPCs. So now it's like, oh no, that person's just an NPC, so I don't have to treat them with love. And that's some dangerous territory that we're getting into. So I'd love to break down that from your perspective. And I thought it was pertaining to this conversation.
Wild one. Emilio, my knowledge on what I call the background people is too limited to be in any depth on that one. But I agree with you according to the teachings which we got from Gabriele. Yes, there are human beings who do not have a soul, but they are more a background. They are not for us to immediate interaction. And that's all I really can share at the moment, because my knowledge isn't much deeper. But I would be very surprised if any of these people would be really immediately in my life and I don't have to be kind to them or nice to them. It doesn't really matter, even if it's soul or not soul. It always matters what I do, irrespective to whom. My kindness should be to everybody, whether the person has a soul or not. So I don't quite agree with that one. I think it's not about the other person. It's about me to evolve. I must bring out the love in me, not the love in another person. So everything around me is nothing but a mirror of myself, where I see myself. Everything which upsets me is in me. So everything is here to teach me the one lesson, which is love. Unconditional, unlimited, all-inclusive, selfless love, which is my original way of being, my vibration, and it's the same vibration God is.
Thank you. And maybe there are souls that may give their souls up. You've mentioned this concept when you were talking about death and afterlife. When we're looking at the spheres of fame, of external power, a lot of the things that we're seeing in the world right now, you've mentioned that there are souls that they achieve all of these external things with the help of an astral being. This is called the Faustian bargain. And we've heard in Hollywood, we go, oh, that celebrity, they sold their soul. What knowledge do you have around this bargain that some souls may do in this lifetime to create these external achievements?
I don't think they make this bargain consciously. What happens, as in my video, if you see that, for instance, it very often is a person who feels he is not enough. So he needs more stuff. He needs stuff, cars, people to impress, etc. I need money, I need power, because he within feels the emptiness. And continuously our advertisements, our world around us tells us you are not enough. You have to have this car, this toothpaste, etc., etc. So the message from the outside world is always onto us. You are not enough. You are not good enough. Do this, buy this, and then you are better. And a lot of people fall for that and says, unless I'm living like a Hollywood movie star, then I'm nobody. So they do all the energy, instead of developing who they are, they're developing all the energy into getting stuff, I said earlier.
Accumulating.
Famous, to become powerful, to become rich. These are the energies. And this is exactly what the negative forces, the astral sources, feed on. Because they feed on our unhappiness. I am not enough is an unhappiness. A person who is continuously searching wealth and fame and power is deep down an extremely unhappy person. Nothing is ever enough for them. That's why they need the outer confirmation all the time. And that sends out energy, loose energy we can't. And that's what the astral entities feed on. They feed on our negative emotion, whether we are depressed, we are sad, we are angry. These are wonderful energies for them to live. That's why they create wars, because in war zones are all these negative energies. And they feed on these things. So a person who has what you call the Faustian bargain is somebody who slided into this thing, and more the entities take him over. That eventually he may get all his riches and so on, but in return he then also, after this lifetime, this is my understanding, has to serve these astral beings because they gave him everything during this lifetime.
They become sort of like a servant to these beings.
Exactly like in the story of House. Yes, we basically, they have to give it back. But in the meantime, they are milking us when we are falling when we are doing, when we are feeling this feeling of loneliness, of upsetness, of not being enough. These are all emotions which are very powerful energies.
Yeah. And we're talking about the earthbound spirits that if they're too attached to the third dimension and to their achievements and their material goods here, when they pass on to the other side, they get sort of stuck in a realm that is sort of still here, earthbound, tied to what's going on here. It was really interesting. I had on a channeler and a psychic, and she told me that when she would go out to a nightclub, for example, and everyone is completely drunk and alcoholized, she would see these spirits in the back of their sort of neck or this area of their body. So are these the earthbound spirits that we're talking about?
Yeah, they are probably earthbound, but I'm coming back to my earlier thing about the entities, the astral entities which give you power and so on, are not necessarily earthbound spirits. These are spirits from the astral spheres. They are usually more manipulative in a way and can give us this energy. The earthbound spirits are the sucking ones. They really do this, and they give us the impression, I want to go now, I want to have another drink, I want to go now dancing in the bar, and whatever it is. So these are very often souls who have had drug addiction kind of problems, and once they're on the other side and have no longer their physical body, they can no longer find the satisfaction. So what they do, they stay on planet Earth and use human beings who have got a similar kind of tendency to enjoy the drugs, the alcohol, and the sex through them. And as you say, they go to the neck and attach themselves to the neck. Not only one, it can be a whole group of people, of souls, who attach themselves and give us the idea, oh, I just want to have another drink, I want to have another sex, whatever. It is not our thought. They inject the thought into us and make us do things over and over. This is called the soul possessions, and I have made a video on this one. It's very serious. It's very, very common. In my video, I mentioned at the end 5 books written by medical doctors, not by some kind of New Age spooks, to really profoundly prove the existence and how they influence and how people who are sort of mentally disturbed and so on are so often influenced by these earthbound spirits.
So let's say it is. And let's say there's someone that they go out, you know, they live a normal life, but they go out and they have, let's say, too much to drink and they change as a person. And now, as you're bringing up the concept of soul possessions, how can one person begin to unattach from these possessions? How can we begin to elevate the frequency so those possessions cannot take place?
I have avoided in my videos and also in my interviews to give direct information because I'm very careful to do anything of medical nature and anything of this field, because people, it's a very tricky area. Yeah. I leave it to the so-called experts. As I said, there are the 5 books which I mentioned at the end of the video by doctors who one can contact. There's a wonderful soul release organization in England whom I would trust. There are quite a lot of people who do this. We have to make our own research. But I believe we also have the power within ourselves. In the books which I mentioned, we can really firmly tell the souls to really leave us alone. Get away. You have no right to be with me. But it depends on how honestly and how seriously we mean it. Because deep down, maybe we want a little bit of drink. Maybe I want a little bit of marijuana, a bit of sex or whatever. So if we are not 100% sure, these things love it and says, okay, I come back. So that is very difficult. So therefore, I think I will stop here. I don't want to give practical advice. I tell, go to the books, read it, or find somebody who does soul retrieving and can help you there. But it is very prevalent. So I think it's a very important video to watch to see that this is something so many people have to deal with. And the attachment of souls is, as I said, very prevalent.
Yeah. And it's also being really aware of ourselves, being able to notice a thought that might pass through our filter instead of acting upon it, saying, is this something that is coming from me? Is this something that I want to do? So being ultra aware, ultra conscious, I think that sort of goes along that topic. And throughout the conversation, we've layered out different sort of dimensions of existence, from the physical, then you've mentioned the astral. From my knowledge and what I've heard from you is that there are 7 in total. And if there are, what are those 7, or even more if there's more levels of existence?
Well, what we speak about is the power of God, which exists of 4 energies, we can call them powers, which at the bottom is order, it's will, it's wisdom, it's justice, it's patience, it's love, and it's mercy. These are the words which we use, and they are just so, and each one has 7 subdivisions. But I wouldn't be, how shall I say, I wouldn't be sort of hung on to this too much. See that in my video how that works. And that's how that's the full powers of God in action, that all these 7 energies have to be together. We are here in planet Earth at the lowest level, which is a level of order in the material universe. So we slowly have to go through all 7. The 7s are the same with our chakras. The same 7 energy centers are identical. We have to open up our chakras again to really let it all flow out, let the energy flow through us naturally without any restrictions. So these 7, now other paths call them differently. I know that in the East they call the same 7 energies differently. I wouldn't be attached to that too much. I just feel that it works for me. I'm at the moment still busy on the lowest level, which is order. And that level for me is, as you mentioned earlier, is self-recognition. That is the main reason why we are here, to recognize ourselves. Forget about all the big spiritual concepts which one day we will have to face and be in. At the moment we are here. And at the moment we are surrounded by ourselves, by the mirror of ourselves, and everything what we see and everything what disturbs us is something that we have to clear up in us right now. That's enough to do from day to day to day.
Yeah. And mentioning those 7 primordial powers of God, they're all mercy, love, patience, earnestness, wisdom, will, and as you just mentioned, order. And when we sort of drop down and fall into this material realm, we've taken out the first three: mercy, love, and patience. Is that what I understood from that video you mentioned of the power of God? That we sort of forget a lot of these powers and of existence, and we leave out those first three, right?
We forget all of them. Yeah, no, the first three, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but I think we basically violate all seven laws. And our key is firstly, to bring order to our life, to submit to the divine will, not the ego will, use wisdom, and then also mercy and earnestness, to do it with earnestness, to have patience, have love, and mercy. These are all qualities which we have to relearn again. And wherever we are guided and helped by teaching angels and souls around us, and this is the path back home. We are all back on the path back home. And irrespective of how we call this energy, the four lower ones are the ones where we can always reincarnate. That's basically it. The four lower ones, wherever we are, we have the opportunity to go back to planet Earth. Until recently, I don't know how it will be after the Earth transition, because after the Earth transition, it will be a higher frequency, and only souls of higher frequency will then be able to come here. The lower frequency one, unfortunately, have to undo their karma in the purification spheres, which is very painful. That's why, as we started earlier, billions of souls want to incarnate quickly, because they know what's coming.
Yeah. And I know you've touched on it, but let's revisit it. What is actually coming? What is the new Earth? What is actually happening?
Well, the Earth has a soul, Gaia, we call it, and so on. And the soul is evolving like everything is in the universe. The universe is continuously perpetual evolvement. It's consciousness evolving. It's nothing else than consciousness. And it's constantly evolving, and so is planet Earth as well. What is falling, what is destroyed, is the Earth, the world, what we created around the planet Earth, our world, our societies, etc. They are disastrous because they're all ego-centered. And they've destroyed the planet Earth. They have really mutilated and hurt planet Earth. We have done so many horrible things to planet Earth, to ourselves, to the nature kingdoms, etc. And the Earth is shaking this off. It says, enough of this, etc. So that means a lot of difficult situations, more wars, more floods, more volcanic eruptions, etc., etc. There will be definitely a lot of more difficult time to come to all of us. But as I said earlier, we are here because we have got the strength to endure it for the most part. And if we don't endure it, then we just go back to the spiritual world. It's not the end of the world. Well, that for us, but it's not the end of our life. We just return back to the spiritual realm. But we are here, we can handle it. There will be some difficult and dark times, and we maybe become hopeless at times, or maybe despondent. But that is the path of the inner path, to learn to rely totally on the God within. God kingdom, even if I draw it, is somewhere here and the Earth is planted here, everything is in us. It's a holographic universe where everything is in everything. So God is in us. It's an omnipresent energy. And that omnipresent energy we can use all the time. And that is our only savior, so to speak, saving grace to really pull through all these times, that energy source. It is in each and every one.
Yeah. And I've also learned from other teachers that if we never ask for help, we won't receive it. And I'll give you an example. Right before coming on the call, about 20 minutes, I go to turn on my camera and it doesn't turn on. And I was like, oh my God. And my reaction was, I felt the stress building up in my system. I felt it, rising. I began to sweat. And then I realized these teachings, that I took a step back and I closed my eyes and I said, please help me. The camera will turn on. And the moment I said that, I opened my eyes. I went to my camera again. I took out the plug. I put it back in, and then it turned on immediately. And I was like, that's what happens when we ask for help. And humanity's being assisted on many, many levels right now. And I've spoken to people that are channeling extra dimensional beings that are asking us to evolve and helping us and assisting us, giving us advice. Also, we've heard the topic of light workers that are coming in, these angelic beings that are incarnating by choice to be in the greatest party of the universe, which is happening here on Earth. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree with you. I think it's very important to learn, because that is where humility comes from. To ask for help, a proud person doesn't ask for help, but pride is ego. So for some of them have to fall so deep. And this is, I think, what we find also very often in the astral spheres, where souls have fallen so deep in kind of hellish atmospheres. And they stay there. They have to learn until they finally succumb and ask for help, to become humble again, because they're still full of themselves, and that keeps them in that hellish environment. So we have to learn to be humble again and says, look, I can't do it myself. Look, I tell you a practical thing. When I do the major stuff, like on television recently, I had to major claim with the airlines and stuff like this, and I hate this and take this. I always ask, Christ, you sit next to me, guide me so that I don't make an ego cup. Let's work. And it always works smooth. I always work with him. I always work with that energy. You can ask your guardian spirit as well, but always be sure that you're not alone doing it, because I'm doing it alone. My ego comes in very quickly. This, I want this way, I want this way. And if it doesn't come my way, I get very impatient, etc. But when I surrender and says, all right, I'm working here with the greatest power ever, whatever will be fine. And I will just have to accept it, because there's nothing else I can do about it. So it helps me to calm down and come from a different level of energy and working. It's all energy. It's all vibration.
Yeah.
And yes, you're absolutely right. We have to learn to ask for guidance, and the guidance is there ample. The guardian spirit I mentioned earlier is with each and every one, wanting to help us not to fulfill our wishes like a genie, but wanting to help us to learn to become love again.
Where are we going? And this touches sort of the aspects of reincarnation. And just to give people, maybe someone that is sticking with one religion and they're really open to a lot of concepts, what if we told you that Christ also taught religion? And we've mentioned this on other episodes before. So why was reincarnation taken out of a lot of religious teachings?
Well, according to my research, and I've made a video on this one and made it a long time ago, I try to remember, but it wasn't the church who took it out, it was an emperor. And an emperor took it out because he wanted to sort of he controlled the church as well at the time. It says he wanted people believe only into the church. And he took it out, and he forced it out in the 6th century. Took it out totally. It was signed by the Pope at the time. And suddenly the Catholic Church no longer could explain where we came from, why it would happen, etc. It suddenly was all taken off. This is the big problem. All the churches, the Christian churches, which split off from the church later on from the Catholic Church, still had, because nobody, or virtually none of them, includes reincarnation. And Christ has taught reincarnation. There are quotes in the Bible very clearly. And in the revelation that are coming through Gabi now, he speaks over and over again about reincarnating and reincarnation and so on. Very clearly, there is no question about it. And everybody who has probably listened, or most of the people who have listened to your program either know about past life regression and things like this. So yes, we all know it by now. Unfortunately, the churches have held us back here. Now, the question is, if we had known reincarnation, would it be a better world? And I sometimes wonder, because the East believe in reincarnation, and they have got as many problems and fighting and killing and wars as we have.
Yeah.
So whether their teaching has really made it a better world, I am not so sure. But I'm sure it would have answered a lot of questions that people have. Why am I here? Where do I come and where do I go?
That's actually such a great question. Would the world be any different if everyone remembered where they were coming from? And before we get into that, I just wanted to ask you the purpose of a lot of people right now that they call themselves rememberers, and they're able to tap into a life of theirs and remember, for example, if they were living in an ancient civilization such as Atlantis or Lemuria, and they're able to gather information to remember the past life. What is the purpose of these people that are coming out right now with that?
I can't speak for them. I only know that according to my teaching, that is not very helpful. Because if that's why Gabi always says, do not do past life regressions. There is a reason why we forget it. And I've made a video on this one, why we do not remember our past life, because we should be here totally free of all kind of ties to the past, the horror we have done there, etc., or the glory we had there. So our ego gets so big. I was once an emperor, I was Nero, etc.
I was Napoleon.
Napoleon, yeah. All this stuff would shadow my today's life because I would run around full of myself because I'm so screwing up important. Or I have done such horrible things that I feel so guilty about having murdered my children in a past life or whatever. So there is a definite reason that when we enter this the Earth sphere, that we do forget slowly over the next 3 years where we our past lives. It's very clear it is here to help us, not to restrict us. And people who can remember it, I can't speak for them. There may be a reason why they can do this and why should this, but I think that for the two reasons: A, for our not to build up our ego, and also not to be intimidated or burdened by too much horrific things, which we definitely have done in the Middle Ages and so on. We all have been, in a way, murderer, killer, whatever, because everybody else was dead. It was a very brutal time. And we should not know it, and we should leave it behind because we have so much to do when we are paying attention to the day's energy. The day's energy right now gives an interaction with you. It may be the next phone call, it may be something else, and that's the only focus I should have, to deal with that with love and undoing and forgiving. So forget about what I was 500 years ago.
I love that perspective. Yeah, and there's also a philosophy that we've lost so much ancient wisdom from the past. So there could be a lot of utility in having people remember, actually how the pyramids were built, or actually, the ancient scriptures and how they were actually taught. Even Jesus, there's a part in the Bible where he disappears. We don't know where he went. And he was actually in India learning about reincarnation. He was actually in Egypt learning from the mystery schools in Egypt. So that's really fascinating. And when it comes to reincarnation, there's also the model of thinking that if there is no time and space, all lives are happening all at once. Do you see that perspective as well? Or is it more as we're in one lifetime and then we go to the next and then the next until the cycle is completed?
My understanding is we are in the time and space area, which is the temporary reality. In the absolute reality where we come from is only the permanent now, which is difficult for us to comprehend. But here we have, by removing ourselves from the absolute reality, we have created a contrast, time and space, and cause and effect. So the time and space implies that there are lives after lives. But even if we have parallel lives and everything happens at the same time, as some so-called science say, it doesn't really affect me at the moment. I have to still deal. I have to pay my rent right now. I have to do this, etc. I have to go to the doctor. All this thing is intellectual exercises and so on. I can maybe think and so on. But does it get me any further with clearing up my life, recognizing who I am, and creating harmony and peace within myself and within my surrounding? I don't know. If it does, if the knowledge of parallel lives makes us better person, fine for them who believe in it. But if it's only an intellectual exercise, fine. I don't have time for that too much because I can't affect it really.
Yeah. I absolutely love that you're bringing up the topic of, does our understanding of these laws, of these concepts, make us a better person? And in the end, that's why we're here listening to the show. That's why we're having these conversations, is will it actually make us a better person? Will it actually help us purify our soul in order to evolve? And I'd love to ask you a more personal question. And is it that, has there been any single law that has made the most paradigm shift change for good in your reality that you've learned recently?
Not recently, but a long time ago, the most powerful thing I think I always, and I'm sorry that we don't learn it at school, is that whatever upsets me in the outside world is in me. And I have to clear it up in that. The outside world is my mirror. As Byron Katie says so, the I am here to love. Everybody else is here to push my button. So that law, that everything else there is only there to help me to understand, to find out who I am. It's not that the other person is wrong, not that president, not etc. If I have an emotional reaction, it's something in me which is not loved by myself, not pure, not cleared up. For me, that was probably the most powerful recognition, because I learned it, I think I was 25 or 30. I says, oh my God, why didn't I know that before? Because until that time, I was blamed other people for everything what was wrong. I still do it at times, unfortunately. Find myself doing that. But I now understand that emotion reaction, problem is me. They still can do the wrong thing, and that's true. But I only have an emotional reaction because there's something similar in me. So a vibration, like attracts like, or like vibration. So I think for me, that was probably the most important. I do make a video on this one, the law of projection, or the law of projection, which explains it exactly how it works, that we are never really victims, that everything that happens to us is something that we have initiated ourselves coming back to us.
It helps us take responsibility. You know, even if a person is in a way giving us a lot of that anger, we can see, oh, where in my cells am I feeling anger in my life? And how can I help that clear it out? And not taking, this is another teaching I love from Don Miguel Ruiz, is not learning to take things personally.
Right.
That's a huge one. That's a huge one. One of the 4 agreements.
Well, I always wondered how you do that. You hear so many wonderful speaker and a lot of contradiction there as well. I don't know how you sort that out. I'm always intrigued by, oh my God, if I would listen to so many different spiritual paths, I would probably be so confused. I make sure that I don't put too much else in it. I stick on what I know, and that's it. It helps me to stay clear. How do you manage?
I would love to read you a quote of a guest that I had on the show, Dr. John DeMartini, and we were talking about what is wisdom, and the definition that came through him just changed my perspective completely, because he said, wisdom is the instantaneous recognition that crisis is blessing, that tragedy is ecstasy, that terrible is terrific, and all pairs of opposites are actually one thing. And that sort of helps me differentiate between the intellect and wisdom. Because the intellect is like, oh, it loves to go down all of these theories and explore parallel realities, explore reincarnation. But then the aspect of us that is more wise, the wisdom, it sees everything as one. There is no sort of difference or duality. And the part of us that does get attached to certain beliefs, ideas, and ways of seeing the world is not the highest aspect of ourselves. So that really changed my perspective a lot on what actually is wisdom. What it means to have wisdom is, learning to juggle different things in one moment, and realizing that they're all the same expression of one source in many ways.
Yeah, I'd like to add that wisdom to me is also something that I have applied in my life. Until that, otherwise it's just an intellectual knowledge. I mean, I have a lot of knowledge. What I'm sharing was a lot of knowledge, very little wisdom, because I'm still working on all these things. But the wisdom comes when it comes from our heart, from our own experience, I think. Otherwise, it's just information. And we have to use it in our life and transform it, to help us to transform our life.
When did you begin to start making that transition from intellect to wisdom?
I think we did it from the moment I realized that there must be more to the spirit, more to life than what the churches have been teaching us when I was a young kid. I couldn't believe the stories I heard there, there couldn't be all. So the moment I learned from it, I changed it. I mean, one of the first things I did was I was 19, I did transcendental meditation. And just by doing transcendental meditation, it helped me so much. I became calm and quiet. So I applied what I learned and immediately changed my life. Now I no longer do transcendental meditation, but I do appreciate it, having been there and helping me to make a change, to see what knowledge can be when you apply it. And it changes my whole system. It changed my system so much that when I was 19, I left Germany and went to Africa. I would have never had the guts doing that and living in Africa had I not done the transcendental meditation. I wasn't that peaceful. I wasn't so secure before. So when we learn something and it makes sense and we apply it, we grow.
Yes. And as souls, when we move on to the other side, this is a topic, a lot of people fear death. A lot of people want to look away and say like, oh, that'll happen someday, but they don't have it present in, that there is going to be a time when we're going to move on. And for a lot of people, I've talked to a lot of people that don't believe that there is an afterlife. And I don't see how that is a belief that can help them in many ways, have a bigger perspective of the world. Because if we think that this is all, there is some positive in thinking that if this is all I have, I'm going to make the most of it. But we can also have that and say there's something that precedes the physical body. So in your perspective, what happens as the body deteriorates and then finally there's no more breath? What goes on after that?
Well, the soul separates from the body and continues its life transition there. But to come back a little bit what you said earlier, this is why I made my videos. When my father was dying, he didn't believe in life after death. He was quite comfortable with it. He says, okay, it's over. And we children were with him for the last few days as he slowly sort of faded away. And I was already, and I never shared my spiritual path with anybody, but with him I said this, look, that if in case you find out that you're not dead, that life continues, these are the 10 things which most likely will take place. You will find it, etc., etc. So I listed what most likely takes place for most souls when they go to the other side. Mm-hmm. So he listened to it and he couldn't speak anymore, but he smiled in a way, says, all right, that's you, but he forget about it. So he died. And I totally forgot about this. It was 5 years later that I was at a book signing of a medium who came, a very well-known one. And I was one of the first one in that room. And I was sitting down. The moment somebody came next to me and tapped on the shoulder and says, look, I'm Roland Kamtai, whom I've never heard before. When you came in, your father came in right away. And he said, go to this man. He is my son. Whatever he said about life after death was true. And I want to thank him from the bottom of my heart. And then he said, and then he gave from some other personal things, which I knew it was him. And then he says, at the moment, my father is working at the receiving station of souls that have died. And he says he sees all the confusion of souls who didn't believe that there was life after death. And it's so, and since I have helped him so much, would I please write books about it and tell the world about what I know? And I just sort of took this in and was rather surprised because, but I didn't want to write another book. And I also wasn't going to share my personal spiritual belief. I don't want to be like the Jehovah's Witnesses, knock at the door and says, this is what you should believe. This is a private thing. I don't want anybody telling me what to believe, and I don't want to tell anybody else to believe. So I decided, since I gave up on the elderly people because they are so stuck, I want to reach the young people. And that's how I started to make YouTube videos 10 years ago. And they are short because the attention span of everybody is very short and very clear. And it was my father's initiation, basically, what is inspiration to start these videos. So there was one who didn't believe in after death, but once he was on the other side, it says, oh my God, whatever, it is all available. The knowledge, what happens on the other side, we all know what can happen most likely. Although death is a very personal experience. There is not one fits all. Everybody has a different form of death, according to very strongly guided by our very strong belief system. If I definitely believe I see Jesus or Maria, whatever, Mary, then most likely I will see that. So there's a lot of stuff. And if anybody wants to see it, they can see my video, The 10 Things You May Experience When You Die.
What are some of those things that you would love to, leave people with of what happens?
I hope you wouldn't ask me. I have to remember now. Of course, the one more. First of all,
not the 10 steps, but like sort of what we can expect.
The first, of course, the surprise that you're alive. Now, as I said earlier, people who didn't expect to be alive are suddenly alive, but they're living. Their body is different. They've got a soul now. not a physical body. And then they are drawn to the sphere which corresponds to their development. So it's like attracts like. They may have the review. They may look at their life review, where they see what has the key elements in the life they have lived and how they have dealt with it. And also the pain they may have inflicted on others. And this is very important, so that if we feel the pain, we are looking at this review, feel the pain for the sake that it goes into our soul and it becomes our conscience in the next lifetime, so that we never do this again. If we hurt somebody, killed somebody in this lifetime, and we feel the pain, it sort of anchors itself in the soul. So next time, hopefully we don't do that. But we are not judged by anybody else. We are our own judge, which is very important. We may be supported by our guardian spirits that help us. And then we will continue our life, and we will know where we have to go, etc. So it's not very, very difficult. That is when it happens positive. Now, there are souls who have fallen so deep into a lower vibration and have done really negative stuff. They will naturally be drawn more to the astral spheres. And in the astral spheres, it's no fun. It's a hellish environment. There is no eternal damnation, but like attracts like. If I was a criminal killing serial killer, then I have to be in an environment with other similar vibrating souls, maybe other serial killers. And being surrounded by 50 other serial killers, maybe fun for 10 minutes, but then it's not. So it is awful. So we create our life after death here, according to how we live. These are just some of these things. And of course, the other thing is very important. If anybody believes that suddenly we are wiser and smarter only because we are dead, that is a mistake. We are as stupid and we are as ignorant. And we also have our cravings still, our desires. If we have got any kind of addiction, they are not falling away. The body fell away, but not our deep cravings. So there we are suddenly and have no more the body. And if we are very attached to our worldly things, like our home, our job, our marriage partner, and so on, we will just sort of become earthbound and stay here. The movie The Sixth Sense is 100% correct. So that's in a short, just a few of these points. It all depends on who we all die individually, but we are not doing it alone. We have our guardian spirit with us to guide us through. We may not necessarily see them in a way because our mind is so focused by what we believe. Our beliefs are actually very strong in these moments. And so it helps to develop a close relationship with divinity within ourselves. And so to that, there is no higher force to connect with that.
Yeah. At this interview, it coincided around the time when I watched Oppenheimer. And I was just, getting deeper into your videos and learning more about reincarnation. I'm like, I cannot imagine the soul review of these people that have done, such massive, I would say maybe damage to the planet, and to other human lives. I was just thinking like, that's like, bro, you got a bad life review after that.
Using the energy. Everything can be used for the positive and for the negative. And
yes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But we are not here to judge others. That's a very important thing. We have to just work on our own self, and we don't know how these souls are received on the other side, and whatever their task was and why they were here. That's between God and them.
That's so true. Hence, we end every show with what we call the final trio, which are short, rapid-fire questions that you can answer in any way that you want. But before that, we've been mentioning your videos, your work. You write children's books as well. Like, that's a dream of mine, is to write a children's book. Where can people find all of your work? Where would you send them to connect with you further?
Well, my website is hanswilhelm.com. And my videos are either on YouTube, you just punch in my name, they come up, or you go to my website, it's called lifeexplained.com, where all the videos are also listed. These are the three contacts I would suggest. And anybody who's interested in the books, they're in Gabriele Publishing House.
Yeah.
To find them.
Yeah, awesome. And when we'll edit this, everything is going to be in the description. So you can scroll down, find every single link to the videos that Hans has mentioned, all of the links he just mentioned as well. And for the final trio, these are questions that are personalized to the guest. except for the last one that we ask at the end of every single show. The first one is, do you believe that this is your last incarnation on Earth?
No, and I don't care either. For me, it doesn't have to be the last one. People always want to have it the last incarnation, I must be sure, and so on. No, once you reach a certain level of love, you may want to come back and help others. And that's the reason why you may want to reincarnate again. So yes, I don't care whether one way or the other. I'm here, have to deal with this life, but the next one can wait.
I love that. Great answer. Second question, what mysteries of life are you playing around with your curiosity right now?
The only mystery is myself, in a way, because I'm here to discover myself. I have to recognize myself. Where are all the hidden shadows and mistakes which I have created myself, and undo them? So the only thing to clear up is myself here. That's the main purpose for me.
I love that. This last question, hopefully it's not the last. I would love to do this again, Hans. It's a beautiful conversation. We call this the time capsule question. And essentially, it allows us to travel a little bit down into the future, around 10, 15, 20 years, where humanity has probably shifted in many aspects. But one thing that stands out is people from my generation, the younger generations, are going to be stepping into leadership positions around that time. And you were given the opportunity to have a time capsule that you could put in anything that you wanted in this time capsule. It doesn't have to be material. It could be a vibration, a teaching, a word, anything that you would, imagine of, to leave for these youth, for these next generation of leaders, that in that moment they're going to be stepping up and leading the new earth. What would you leave behind in this time capsule?
The first comes to my mind the words love and nothing else. It sounds maybe a bit soapy, but it's basically, it comes back to that, nothing else. It's love. Love is the reason why we're here, the reason who we are, and how we return. It's the only thing. So the only thing to do is to love, which includes clearing up our karma and all the bullshit which we have created.
Yes. Yeah, and just to go out that, another thing that I learned from you is that spirituality and these things, all the topics that we're exploring are actually very simple. So the more simplified we can make it, the easier it's going to be. And that's a question of like love and nothing else. And I believe you had a book of a similar title about love.
I will always love you. Yeah. No, my videos are kept exactly by the advice Albert Einstein gave us. Says, if you can't explain what you know to a 6-year-old, you probably haven't understood it yourself. Huh. And that's exactly how these videos are, because they're also shared by kids. Yeah. Parents share them with their kids because they're easy to understand. And that's what I mentioned. God has no secrets from his children, because we're all one in a way. So why would God have any secrets? Everything is available. And that's why the teachings we receive through Gabi are so clear and so amazing, because there are no secrets. And it's all very simple and very clear. It's all vibration, and we have to just bring it up again. We make it complicated through our ego and through our self-importance.
Yes. And if you would want to leave a contemplative question for the listener, for the viewer, to sit with and really think about, what question would you leave behind for them?
What jumps to my mind is, what is holding you back not to connect with Christ or God?
I love that. Hans, I just wanted to honor you for your mission on the planet. You are a beautiful soul. I just feel super blessed for the opportunity to connect with you. And I know that you're going to continue to create, to pour in your creativity, your teachings into the world. And I'm just really excited about what's next for you, and continue to learn in the best way possible from you. So I appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much, Emilio. The same with you. I know you have got great plans, development. It's exciting. It's an exciting time we are here, and to share and be able to share it with so many other people. So it was a great honor and pleasure to have met you, and hopefully we make it again one day. Thank you again for inviting me.
Much love.
Much love.